So let's try and complete this. The truth is, it was much more elaborate, and I made an operation, removed 50% because we'll never. So we'll try and cover it. So let's begin. As everybody knows now, we're coming towards the end of Sefer Shmois, Parshat Vayakhel, Pekudei, and it's all about the summary, the tally, the summary, the details of the construction of the Mishkan, of which the Beis HaMikdash is the evolution of. So we're going to look here at the final chapter of Hilchas Beis HaBchira of the Rambam. Hilchas Beis HaBchira are the laws of the construction, the details that describe the Beis HaMikdash and how to build it in great detail. All of the measurements, etc., and the materials. It's a architectural, detailed tract that the Rambam wrote based on the Gemara and the Mishnah, how to build the Beis HaMikdash. So the end, the final chapter, the first halacha reads as follows. I just put it into English. Guarding the Mikdash is a positive commandment, even though there is no fear of enemies or bandits. For the purpose of the guarding is not for protection, rather it's an expression of respect, of honor. Palace that has guards is not the same as a palace that does not have guards. So then he goes on to describe, just listen up, there's not any text anymore. I'm gonna read the text and explain in between what it's about. So don't get lost with the next text. Then Rambam goes to describe in detail how the Kohanim and the Leviim, where they stood, the ceremonial guard each night throughout the night at the different points of the Beis HaMikdash, the courtyard, etc. The Kohanim on the inside, the Leviim on the outside. And he gives us the detailed description. Next quote is the final law. There's 11 laws in this chapter. And the subject matter is, as I just told you, the guarding. Then he says, in addition to the guarding, there was an inspection. Every night before dawn, the Kohanim inspected the entire courtyard. It's dark. How would they do it? Let's read the quote. The Kohanim held 2 torches of fire in their hands, right? One in each, and divided. They had a starting point. They divided into 2 groups. One proceeded east and the other west. They inspected the entire courtyard, and then they met. And when they met, having seen that everything is in order, they declared to each other, Shalom, peace, Hakoil Shalom, all is peace. Now, first little question is, peace, in order, they should say. Beseder, peace. It's a question of a war. And why they double Shalom, Hakoil Shalom? Yeah. Everything is in Hakoil Shalom, but the word peace doesn't seem the appropriate thing. Everything is in its place. Hakoil Karoyo, everything is fitting. Hakoil Beseder. Why Shalom? And why the double peace? All is peace. That question will be answered at the end. That's not our main question. Our main question is this is Halacha 11 is the second last law. Halacha 12 is the final law. This pattern was followed each night except on Shabbos night. Not Friday night. For then they did not hold torches of fire. Rather, they carried out the inspection by the light of flames that were kindled there before the onset of Shabbos. So on the walls, there were torches, and that's how the place was lit up. That's how they did the inspection, not carrying the torches of fire. So one little question is, you see, it says it's law number 12. Why is this a separate law? It should follow law number 11. It's the same subject. Law 11 talks about the inspection, and then you conclude by saying, this is what you did 6 nights a week, but not Friday night. Why is there a new halacha? And you should know in the Rambam, it's so precise. We learn out many laws from the fact, the way he divides the subject matter. Teaches you something that you wouldn't have known. Why is this a separate halacha? That's not the main question. The main question is now coming up with quote number 4. This is the Rambam, the laws of Shabbos, and likewise the Rambam says in the laws of Yom Kippur, rabbinic safeguards, Shvus, do not apply to the Beis HaMikdash. In Hebrew, Ein Shvus B'Mikdash. What does this mean? The rabbis enacted, the sages, thousands, don't read further, it's not on your page.
What's a Shvus?
I'm going to tell you. It's exactly what I'm telling you now. In Chachomim, the sages enacted literally thousands, if you get down to the details, but hundreds of laws to protect. Shvus means don't do this, to protect Torah law. Torah didn't prohibit it. The sages prohibited it, because if we allow this, you'll end up transgressing Torah law, like a fence around the Torah. The most common Shabbos, we have hundreds of laws like this. Shabbos, the Torah itself doesn't prohibit you from moving your Shabbos candles on the table on Shabbos. The Torah says, don't light a fire, don't extinguish a fire. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. Matches. You're not allowed to light a match. You can touch it and move it. Sages said, no. You don't even touch it. You don't move it, because the fear. If you're going to be handling it and moving it, you'll forget and you'll accidentally light it, because so to protect, you don't even touch the matches. These laws, it's a whole body of the law of Shulchan Aruch, the laws of Muktzah. That's only one aspect of Shavuos. There are many things. I mean, a big one is not eating. It's kind of a Shavuos, poultry with dairy. Torah doesn't prohibit that. It's only meat, red meat of an animal. Because of confusion. If this we allow, we consider this meat, we'll eat that. In the Beis HaMikdash, these laws were not observed. The rabbinic safeguards, that's what Shavuos means, like a safeguard, were not observed. Why not? Because why the need for the safeguard? You may forget, and you're not cognizant, and you'll end up transgressing. You're in the Beis HaMikdash, you're not forgetting anything. Hashem has revealed that it's a place of holiness and inspiration. So there, the sages said, we don't have to apply our fence protections in the Beis HaMikdash. That's the halacha. And there are many illustrations of that. So the question is, if that's the case, why couldn't they walk around? Of course, they lit it before Shabbos. Why couldn't they walk around Friday night handling and holding the torches of fire? That's a rabbinic safeguard. Because if you can handle the torch, you might light another one, you might extinguish it. We're not afraid of these things in the Beis. There's no Shavuos in the Beis HaMikdash. So why did they have to rely on, no, we're not going to touch it. We'll use the torches that are on the wall of the Beis HaMikdash, the courtyard from before Shabbos. There's no need for that. Now, the truth is, there's a whole discussion that we're going to delete that just to get to the bottom line. The question remains. That's the main question. The main question is, why did they not inspect the courtyard, the whole Beis HaMikdash, Friday, Shabbos night, like they did it the rest of the week, given that we do not need or observe rabbinic safeguards? And this is a Shavuos. To understand that, I'm going to talk about Hanukkah for a moment. An insight into the whole story of Hanukkah, and this is going to give us the key to understanding over here. A famous question, the whole celebration of Hanukkah is that there wasn't enough pure oil to last more than one night, and the miracle happened, and it lasted 8 nights. So what's the story here? How long does it take to produce oil? It takes a second. You take an olive and you squeeze it. Problem is, everybody was tamei. Everybody was ritually impure. Why were they all ritually impure? Because it was a war and death was everywhere. And if you're ritually impure, it takes 7 days to go through death, the process of tahara, and you have to be sprinkled with the ashes of the red heifer. That's why it was an 8-day miracle. Because they would need 7 days to go through the purification, and day 8 they could produce new oil. That's why God did the miracle. The miracle was that the one cruse of pure oil that had not been contaminated. Now, the question, if they touched it, they ruined it. They didn't, it's not the discussion. They didn't touch it directly. They used sticks, whatever. There was one cruse of oil that had escaped all the contamination, and that lasted for the next 7 days, where they could go through a total of 8 days, a purification process, and then produce their own new oil, pure kosher. The question is, but wait a second, look at the quote of number 5. The laws of impurity are suspended with respect to communal obligations services. If an individual is tamei, that's it. You can't go to the Beis Hamikdash. You got to go through. You can't eat sacrificial food. You got to go through your purification process. But if the community is impure, the laws of impurity are suspended. So the question is, everybody was impure then. So take an olive and squeeze it. There's no need for the miracle. We don't need that pure oil to last. And God doesn't do miracles for nothing. We don't need that pure oil to last another full week, giving us 8 days so that we can go through the process, become pure. When we do, we will. But meanwhile, we could squeeze oil now and do the mitzvah, because the laws tumba hutra betzibur, the impurity is permissible when the tzibur and the community is pure. So why did God do the miracle? So one of the answers, number 6, the Gilyon Hashas, Rabbi Yosef Engel, a famous scholar, writes like this: when establishing Kedusha anew, it is inappropriate to rely on the leniency or compromise of the Tumah suspension halacha. Okay, listen up. Let me explain what he's saying. He answers a very novel answer. He says, what happened here in the story of Hanukkah? By the Greeks contaminating it, they brought in idolatry, etc. Like there's no Beis Hamikdash. We have to rededicate. The word Hanukkah actually means to rededicate. We're rededicating the Beis Hamikdash anew, where there is no Beis Hamikdash now, physically, but its holiness is gone. So now we are establishing it anew. Says Rabbi Yosef Engel, when you're establishing the holiness anew, there, when you're just creating it, there you don't want to rely on any leniency. That should be done in absolute purity. And that's why Hashem made the miracle that they were able to do so, because when you're creating once the holiness is there and established, it can tolerate. If the majority are impure, the holiness of the temple continues, and you bring your offering anyway. But if we're just making the temple right now, we're just creating it, we can't introduce there a compromise where we're impure, but it's okay because it's okay only when you have a Beis Hamikdash. But you don't have one yet, and you're making it. That's got to be done in the purest form without compromise. To explain it further, look at the next quote. A contradiction. The halacha number 7, it's a very simple contradiction. We're obligated to bring the fixed time-bound karbonas, communal offerings, on Shabbos. On Shabbos, they slaughtered, they burnt the offerings on the Beis Hamikdash. Turn the page, and yet, footnote 8, the construction of the Beis Hamikdash does not supersede Shabbos. So this is a question. Building the Beis Hamikdash doesn't stop on Shabbos. But once it's built, you're doing all these laws that Shabbos you can't do. The answer is, once it's built and the holiness is here, that changes the whole picture. You bring your offerings, etc. But while you're building it's not there yet, you're building it, then you're not going to transgress Shabbos. Similar idea. In the story of Hanukkah, while we are building and rededicating the Beis Hamikdash, and you can't rely on, we'll do this in an impure way, because we don't have the holy Beis Hamikdash that's able to tolerate it. We're creating it. Now, let me give you an example in everyday life, and then we'll get back to answering your questions. Marriage. Our relationship with God is a marriage. The Beis Hamikdash is the house. What is a marriage? You're building a home together. It starts with a chuppah. The chuppah is your home. So, when you're creating that, from the time you're engaged, for example, till the chuppah, so you're building towards the chuppah, you got to be your best behavior. I mean, if there's something there that one hurts the other one, the other one's going to say, well, I need this. So once you're married already and you've established that bond and commitment, we can weather a little bit of, how could you do that? It's not going to, if the marriage is strong enough, it's able to tolerate. And it's actually part of life. It's not, there's the ups and downs, and it's inevitable. But the ups and downs are only tolerable and even inevitable and part of the growing once you marry. But when you're dating, and certainly after you just committed to engage, now the ups and downs, you'll look at them and say, what do this for? Now, when you're creating, when you're coming to make it even stronger. Standing under the chuppah, the wedding night, the wedding day. If you're not going to be in your best behavior then, there's no room for anything else then. This is pure love and holiness. There's no room for any, sorry, I forgot, or an insult or sarcasm or worse. Just inappropriate. You're creating the relationship. That's going to be 100%. So that's what we're saying over here. Answering the story of Hanukkah. When we're rededicating the temple, it's pure oil. Everything's got to be pure because we're just creating this moment. Once it's there, it can tolerate the impure oil. There's all kinds of exceptions. We can ride it and tolerate it, even grow from it. And that's going to answer our original question. Another question. There's a lot of stuff over here. Just bear with me. Another question. Not on the page at all. We are quoting from the Rambam here, the laws of the construction of the house. Till now, it's just details, the dimensions. And here, all of a sudden, we're getting about guarding. That's not construction, that's service. There's another book that Rambam wrote, there's 14 books. And one of those books is called The Laws of the Avodah in the Beis HaMikdash. That's where this belongs, about the guarding and the inspection. Why does this chapter 11, it's a chapter 8, I'm sorry. This chapter 8, it doesn't even belong in this section. So here's the key to the whole thing now, that guess what? The guarding and the inspection is not about the service in the Beis HaMikdash. It's not. As we read in the beginning, God doesn't need the guards, and what's there to inspect? If we're not afraid of anybody intruding, you don't have to inspect and see everything's okay. There's nothing they're gonna interrupt. So what is it all? You know what it is? It's our respect, we are building. It's the recognition that we're not taking for granted, and that we're building the Beis HaMikdash, wow, every day, the wow. That's what this honor God is. That's what the inspection is. It's part actually of the building. So if applying that to the marriage, it means that don't take it for granted. You're committed, you're married, you have children, and your life together, and that this is Baruch Hashem, beautiful. We always have to remember that really it's a miracle that we're married, and it's an ongoing process. This is something which we've discussed before. Marriage is really happening every second. It's really every second under the chuppah. It's constantly got to be renewed. You know why? Because it's an impossible thing. How do two people be together forever? Different temperaments, different genders, forever. I mean, the relationship's long as lasts that long. Friends come and go, partners come and go forever. It's very rare. But marriage, forever, that needs constant work. You can never done, married, cruise control. No, it's really every day under the chuppah. Every day, well, you come home. I can't believe it. The gift, my wife, my children. This honor guard and this inspection is expressing that awe and wonder that we have a Beis HaMikdash. It's also an impossible thing. God, infinite God, is revealed here. Also, like marriage, this impossibility. Hashem is revealed in this place, and we can go there. That's what this honor guard is expressing. Now we've answered our question. Since it's all about not service, but it's about the wow factor, the honor factor, about the whole thing existing, then there's no room for any compromise at all. We don't suspend any laws. We'll do, like, again, when you're dating and when you're just getting married under the chuppah, it's the story of Hanukkah. When we're dedicating the temple, we're not going to rely on the law suspension. It's all going to be pure. So too, the sages said not to handle fire on Shabbos. Yeah, and basically you're allowed because whatever, any law that there is, we're going to respect, needed or not, because what's this inspection about? Not the service, but it's the recognition of the whole relationship. It's like revisiting the dating time. He's standing under the chuppah every day. It's not a service. That's why he discusses these laws here in the laws of the building. Because every time you're on that honor guard, you're building it again, you're recreating it again. And that's got to be done completely, perfectly, and innocently and purely. And that's what we're not going to rely on. But you're allowed to carry torches in the Beis HaMikdash. That's once we've got it. But this is not something that has to do with a service. This is an expression of the creating it to begin with, which is why it discusses this where? In the laws of the building of the Beis Hamikdash. Again, applying it to marriage, it means that yes, it is true. We're married and we got used to each other. We can tolerate, imperfections. That's the fact, but we should not take that for granted. And there should be an element in our marriage constantly of, wow, and I can't believe this, and therefore my best behavior. And there's zero tolerance on some level for hurting you even slightly. Because this whole thing is a miracle. This whole thing is amazing. The whole thing is a gift. That's what this honor God's all about. And that's got to be perfect. We're not perfect, but the awareness of it at least, and to strive towards that, is something we need to have front and center. Okay, there's more. Just add one final thing. Kind of not related exactly to the way but another message from this whole thing. The other message is this. So, in actual fact, the inspection of the courtyard of the Beis Hamikdash was used by candles or torches lit on Erev Shabbos. The symbolism there is like this. The perfect Beis Hamikdash is going to be when Mashiach comes. That's the final third Beis Hamikdash. So we have to know what's going to illuminate then the way we serve God now, Erev Shabbos, in exile before Mashiach comes. The flames we light now, by those lights that's going to illuminate the world then. It's a very, very critical message. It's a very critical message. What we do now will determine, afterlife, but when the Beis Hamikdash comes, will determine the nature of world peace, our relationship with God. It's all based on the mitzvahs we do now. On Shabbos, which represents the Messianic era, Shabbos represents the Messianic Yomei Mashiach. We have the quote over there, year number 9, Yom Shekol Shabbos, the era of Mashiach is the era of Shabbos forever. What's going to be the experience then? How am I serving God now? What are the candles, the flames that I light now? How critical is our service of God now? It's going to determine the whole future, the utopian purpose of creation we contribute to. And the final quote on the page, it's a shocking thing. The Gemara says, based on the pasuk, we'll read it, a time will come about which I will say, I have no desire for them. End of quote. That's from Kehelis, from the Ecclesiastes. Says the Gemara, these are the days of Mashiach when there'll be no opportunity to acquire merit or liability. In the Hebrew, that's what the pasuk says. Says the Gemara, it's a strange kind of thing. We'll feel bad then because it's too late. We're going to reap the rewards of what we did now. So the Rabbi would always tell us, right now, because now every effort that we do now, the result, it's hard. It means so much then. And then it's too late for your effort because then we reap the rewards. But I wanted to, we'll leave that like that, but that brings out the point. Now, just to go back to our question, quote number 2, why they said Sholem, Hakel Sholem, peace, all is peace. And why didn't they say everything is in order? Because there was no expectation that nothing would be in order. This is all honor God. This is all about the awesome wow factor that we are acknowledging in the Beis Hamikdash. And therefore what? What's the expression they use? Sholem, peace, wholeness. Hashem is called peace. Hakel Sholem. In fact, as you were saying, so it reminded me, when the Jews say Shalom, Shalom Aleichem, what did you say? Say the word. You're saying to the Shekhinah. You're saying when the Jews say Shalom Aleichem, he's talking to God. So when they said Shalom Hakel Shalom, they're saying the divine presence is here. That's the wow factor that they're saying every morning. This wasn't like no one broke in, no one stole anything, everything. Of course not. This place doesn't need physical gods. This is all ceremonial, which brought out the appreciation, and therefore the spiritual building, and therefore they use the expression that invokes God's presence, wholesome, Shalom Hakel Shalom, and furthermore, they're hinting to this one day will be the eternal Beis Hamikdash, when there will be peace in the world. That's what we're driving towards. Okay, Yiddish. Oh, yeah. Have a wonderful day, wonderful Shabbos. We'll see you.
Nice Shabbos.